And good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Today is the 12th of December. Can you believe it? 2019. I'm Roy Potter. Welcome. Yeah, I was pretty bummed out the other day. Still am. But I figured this morning would be a good time to come on so that you don't think I've completely thrown in the towel. That certainly isn't the case. Welcome as you come in. And I appreciate you being here despite all the other things that are going on. However, I thought it would be a good time to discuss a few things. So let's see if everything is set up here correct. And it looks like it is. However, very few watching, if at all. But it says we're working, so I'm going to just push on here. Wasn't really expecting many people to be in there. We get a few watching now. Like I said, I didn't tell you I was going to be here. As a matter of fact, I was wondering if I ever should be. I had a yellow cup this morning, and with the green screen, it completely disappeared. And I thought, man, I better do something about that because people make fun of that for sure. So I got a cup that doesn't disappear. You're also noticing I'm wearing my Mullen Lobby shirt. Okay, I think you can see that. From InfoWars. So, and due to the subject matter today, that's the reason why I'm wearing it. You notice I call it illegal majoritarian coercion and the attack on the Second Amendment. And of course, what I'm referring to here is what's going on in Virginia. I mean, there are a lot of other places in the country that are causing a lot of problems, of course. You know, you've got New York, you got Illinois, you've got the things that are happening in Washington State and in Oregon and in California and even in Florida, which is a heavy Second Amendment state. They are really going crazy with the red flag laws there. The last situation I saw was probably not necessarily unjustified, but I'm very disturbed over the fact that they take the weapons before your Fourth Amendment rights to due process, etc., are fulfilled. But we'll get into that. I suspect that a lot of you are probably wondering if I'm going to talk anymore about the IG report. And like I said, I wanted a few days to kind of let that digest and see what was going on, look at it myself, see what I would consider to be important. And basically, it's like I said, it looks to me as if, and it only makes sense, the IG, like I said, is there to protect the institutions. And the IG's responsibility isn't to necessarily fix things, it's to identify problems and to recommend solutions. That's really what an IG does. It should have, they usually do have quite a bit of force, especially like in the military. The IG is like, you know, it's like God coming to see you. But the point is that I wanted to wait. I knew that there would be situations on both sides of this thing that would claim victory. We saw Comey do that right out of the bag before Horowitz went live in front of the Senate yesterday. And I suspect he's probably, if not, and I doubt that he's sweating bullets. These people have a lot of protection around them from people in the deep state. But as you saw in Horowitz's testimony yesterday, if you listen to it, if not, you know, the commentary afterwards, it's obvious that Horowitz did call out the FBI as being, and portions of the DOJ as being corrupt. He used niceties. He used nice words, saying, "Oh, you know, they didn't follow procedures, those types of things." No, those were crimes. Some of the things that were committed there weren't just violations of procedure. They were crimes. They were altering evidence, manufacturing evidence, in fact, spying. Anyway, I think for what Horowitz is, I think that in fact, it was a pretty good job, in my estimation. And I think there are a lot of people that will agree with that. Of course, I don't agree with the fact that he said that there were no biases. Political biases, he's waffled on that quite a bit. And also, of course, there was only one criminal referral, and that's most likely on this Kleinsmith fellow, which is altogether not enough, of course. That's nowhere near the amount of people that should be brought up on charges. Certainly, there should be people disciplined administratively, and there are a good number of them that should be prosecuted criminally. I'm still not sure what's going to happen there. It bothers me. Barr gave, I gave you that clip the other morning of Barr saying that we can't expect anything from Durham before late spring or early summer. I find that incomprehensibly destructive and unnecessary. And I'll explain that here in a minute, and then we'll get into the Second Amendment stuff. The fact of the matter is that they'll probably go after Kleinsmith, but when, I don't know when, what the timetable will be. The excuse will be that they're doing this large investigation and that they're going to, basically pit these different players against each other, how they do, in their interrogations and those types of things. I'm not saying that isn't part of the process, but when you have a clear crime and you have a country that's on the edge, as this nation is today, someone needs to go down. And I've heard Lionel talk about this and other people. There has to be a hammer drop somewhere, and it needed to be this week. Barr gave an excellent explanation of everything on NBC News and some other places that he's been. He's being called by Eric Holder to be that he's not qualified to be the AG. That from the likes of Holder, but we can expect these types of name-calling things. There is that war in the government that continues, and scripturally, it's the wicked shall destroy the wicked. I don't have any. I no longer, if I ever did, I have no fealty to any of these people, either side, whatever they say. Not even Trump. Okay, I don't. I go by what they do, not by what they appear to be. In other words, as I've said before, principle over personality. I'm not a cult of personality person. So really what we're seeing is a lot of different evil people striving to either save their skins or try to save the institutions over saving the principles, and I'm not happy with that. But by the same token, for what there is there, for the wickedness and the evil that exists, I think that Barr's explanations of not only what Horowitz has found, but what Durham is finding, and the procedures that they're following, I think that's a good sign. I'm not saying the Barr isn't still up to whitewashing this whole thing away. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is that at least at this stage of the game, it's quite apparent that Durham does know some things, okay, and Barr too, and possibly Trump. Why no arrests? I've heard the excuse that, well, and Paul Sperry said this, and I'm not saying I disagree with his premise. Paul Sperry said, he's on Twitter, he's a reporter, said that this is so vast and so huge that they almost have to attack the entire thing at one shot as a huge conspiracy rather than prosecute it piecemeal, because that would be too hard. Now, I understand that. I do understand that. But by the same token, as I've said, this country is on a knife's edge, and with everything that's going on, people have to show that Trump and Barr are serious. So somebody has to go down, and as Gigi Sims has said on Twitter, she's a commentator there, does some wonderful threads. Kleinsmith is likely the first one to go down, but she's not even sure anybody else in the establishment will. That this thing, especially if they wait till spring or summer, it will again be placed in the back burner of the country's consciousness with all the other crap that the propagandists in the CIA, the IC, and the media, they're all combined, throw out there to constantly change the narratives and our concerns from day to day, and nothing gets resolved. So, at any rate, Kleinsmith altering that email was a very serious offense, but this is the type of the thing that the FBI does. They've done it for decades. Many are trying to act like this was, some type of a anomaly, but it is not. It's been a problem in the FBI for a long time. The whole concept of the way the 302s work is disgusting. It's time for the FBI to get up to speed, and I know all the arguments that they have for it, but even Sidney Powell doesn't go along with this, that they say that they have to use the 302s because that's the way that their tools work. Well, that's the problem. Their tools work because they can lie, they can alter evidence, they can manipulate the evidence to formulate, and you want to get the real criminals, but the FBI's not really been doing that for a long time. There have been a lot of really good folks, Rich Higgins, Anthony Schaefer, Lieutenant Colonel Anthony Schaefer, and many others who have shown that the FBI no longer supports the American people and their freedoms and protects them in that. They're actually adversaries. The FBI is actually an adversary to the protection of the American people. They could, as Mike Cernovich said the other day, the FBI can't go after. They couldn't catch the Pulse nightclub, the Las Vegas shooting, but they can harass. He didn't say this, but they can harass ranchers who are trying to hold on to their property rights. So, and that's at the behest of people like Hillary Clinton and Harry Reid, and we've talked about that, and you know how I feel about it. So, at any rate, Mike says that the FBI should be disbanded. Schaefer and Higgins say that there needs to be an entire overhaul of the FBI and the DOJ, and I agree with that. Oh man, I hate. No word from Roy Potter about Trump's unconstitutional executive order action yesterday, Captain Diggler. What are you talking about? You're talking about him with defining the Jewish people as that they can be victims of putting them in that executive order, that adding them to the list of people that are attacked. Come on. No, that's not unconstitutional. What I'd say is that it's an embarrassment, because and you're getting me off topic, but I'm only going to address this one time. It's an embarrassment because I'm sick and tired of everybody, all these different groups having special status. A human being is a human being, and I'm getting sick and tired of it going any other way. To make a special status because somebody hates, a black person hates a white person, or, a white person hates a Jew, who are still white people, whatever. I find that reprehensible and disgusting. All are equal under the law. And so the hate crime laws, in my estimation, are nothing more than a manipulation by the powers that be to cause division. All are supposed to be equal under the law, and that's all I'll say about it, Diggler. And if you don't like it, you can go away. Okay, it wasn't unconstitutional. It was just totally unnecessary, as so much of that baloney is. Okay, so getting back on this situation, I fully expect that you're going to continue to see people calling for Trump to move, but giving him a pass, and Barr, he sounds real good. I don't know what the Geneva is saying lately. I know he was very, he thought the IG report, spelled things out pretty well. But by the same token, I still maintain, and I will, that without coming down hard with arrests and some serious prosecutions, all Trump and Barr are doing are saying that they're weak. And maybe that's by design, obviously, you people, you folks, and myself, we are not in a position to get that to change, unfortunately. We can moan and groan and cry and write and yell on Twitter and on YouTube, whatever, go and see our representatives and all that. The DOJ is so corrupt, and that includes the FBI, and of course the intelligence community is so corrupt that it's going to take a massive, aggressive, with force action to even begin to clean those places out. Even firings won't work. As I said, all those places need to be cleaned out at least 2 tiers down from the top, and I would say also selectively through the agency, just like this Kleinsmith guy, and there are others. So at any rate, that's basically where I am at this point on the Horowitz report. I think it has put a good black eye not only to the FBI but to the DOJ, and now we need to see a black eye to the IC as a whole, and that includes the State Department and a lot of other places, not just the CIA. So all we can do is wait and see what Durham does, but frankly, I think that they're showing that they're weak. There's probably some political motivation here as well. Trump and his campaign advisors are probably saying, oh, if we push this out closer to the election in November, then it'll be more fresh on people's minds. I think that's a mistake. That's a loss, again, of initiative. That's not a tactic. We can't fight criminal and terrorist behavior. That's exactly what we're seeing in the IC and in these different agencies. We can't fight it with campaign politics. That's like letting them drop nuclear bombs on you. I mean, that's how bad it is. So I don't like that, and plus it's bringing into question, of course, Trump's real motivations, and I know that'll cause a big to-do with everybody, but that's how I've concerned myself this entire time. So bottom line, Horowitz did call out the FBI and the DOJ, and he did it not as forthrightly and as strongly as I would have liked, but there's plenty of damning information in there, and so to that extent, I think it was good. Where it was bad was where are the calls for the prosecutions and the disciplinary actions? Not just fixing the problem, not just fixing these little problems, as I forget the exact words he used, but these were obviously actions of intent, seditious actions of intent, and not just mere oversights or mistakes. So it's time to do that. All right. So that's all I'm going to say about the Horowitz report. You can go to everybody else and get their detailed analysis if you want. That to me is a waste of time. I don't need to do that. I'm the type of guy that likes to take the information and get it down into a reasonable assessment and let it be. So that's where it is. So you've got my assessment. Okay, let's talk about what's going on with the Second Amendment. Because the thing that Stalinists and Maoists and Pol Potists and tyrants in general, Hitlerians, etc., do is they must disarm the people. They want to take away their speech or change it, which is happening. They want to use medical tyranny because that's a backdoor to get around the rights of people, because everybody's concerned about their medical condition, right? And then, of course, if tyrants are going to succeed, they can't have an armed populace standing against them. Hence, my, again, celebrating this shirt, Molin Labe, from InfoWars, which, of course, means come and take it. What am I referring to? I've already talked about some of those states. I'm honing in on Virginia right now. Anthony Schaefer, Colonel Schaefer, lives in Virginia, and he's watching all of these things happen firsthand there, and he's not happy. If you're not aware of what's happening in Virginia, what's going on is that the state legislature there, which is, and the governor, they're all pretty much Democrats, not all of them, but largely, and they've passed some laws where they're banning weapons. People don't like me to use the word assault weapons because they say they're not assault weapons. Well, I'm not going to be directed in this speak, okay? Because frankly, I think Americans should be able to have assault weapons. So I'm not even going to get dragged in to that argument. Under the Second Amendment, we're supposed to be able to have military arms. But at any rate, so what Virginia is doing is they've gone the next step. The red flag laws were, and I blame Trump for this. He was the one that pushed this red flag law, and everybody who doesn't understand that is blind or deaf or both. He started down this road, and then he tried to backtrack. That's what he does. But he didn't backtrack quickly enough because he never should have said it in the first place. He gave a pass to these people, and they're pushing it with everything they've got. So Virginia wants to take these weapons away. They then, and of course you all know about the counties doing the sanctuary city thing, but before we get to that, the people started rising up and saying, no, you can't do that to us. And then the state legislature and the governor said, well, what we'll do is we'll amend this so that we'll grandfather it in if you already have the weapon, but you'll have to come in and register it. Oh yeah. Well, there you see. So the end result is still the confiscation of all these weapons without due process. Their due process is majoritarian coercion, and you see it in my line there. What's the problem with majoritarian coercion? Why is it illegal? Because that's true democracy. True democracy is majority rule. So that's, two wolves and a lamb for dinner. The republic that we have is supposed to guarantee that our rights are above the calls of the majority. The majority cannot attack and take us and take away our rights just because they say that they're the majority. That's why we have a Bill of Rights. And that's why Madison and all of those people who founded our country were so adamant about the Bill of Rights being in the Constitution and saying that no majority can take away these God-given rights for you, that it is in fact the duty of the government to protect your God-given rights, not to negotiate them away, not to fool you and take them away and all those things, but that they are untouchable, they are inviolate. So majoritarian coercion is illegal under our system of government, and majority cannot. The only way that you can infringe on the Second Amendment, the only way you can infringe on that is by Congress to be called in. And I'm not saying this would be right, but under our system, the only way that the right to keep and bear arms can be changed is for Congress to come in and do another amendment to the Constitution. That's the only way. All of these other court things and legislative actions and municipalities, ordinances, and all of these things that are being done are all illegal in their attempts to infringe on the Second Amendment. So, in Virginia, what happened is that when all of this got to the point where it was about ready to explode, good constitutional, I suppose, county sheriffs, at least counties, apparently there are about 40 of them now, I think it might even be up higher than that, said, okay, well, there are sanctuary cities for illegal aliens to counter a law, so we're just going to have sanctuary counties. And the counties really are the final arbiter in this thing. The states think that they are, but they're not. It's the counties. And the counties are really, you'd have to understand American politics, but and the way it was all structured, but the counties are what give the state its authority, and the states are what give the federal government its authority with restrictions, right? Well, all of that has been, they've tried to change all that so that's always a top-down tyranny in our country, which is not the way it's designed to be. But at any rate, the counties in Virginia, many of them, like I said, about 40, it may be a lot higher than that, have said that they're going to make themselves sanctuary counties for the Second Amendment. Well, how did the state respond to that? Well, that was part of what they did. They said, okay, well, if you already have the weapons, you can keep them, but you're going to have to register them. And then the county said, no, that's not going to work either, because we know what your end game is, and that is to confiscate all of these weapons. So, and to make us subjects of the state rather than the arbiters of our own liberty. So, the state now says, they came out yesterday, the state of Virginia, the legislature that thinks it's God Almighty, says, okay, well, we can see where we're going with this. The county sheriffs and the counties that do this and the citizens that fight us, we're gonna have the police and the National Guard come in. In other words, we're going to kill you to force you to give up your weapons. Ladies and gentlemen, this is where the lines in the sand are drawn. And these people that sit in the legislatures are not gods. They are not. They do not have majoritarian coercive rights. They are bound by the laws, the supreme law of the land of this country. I don't care about the whole thing with the 1781, 1789, the Corporation of D.C. I don't care about all that, because Marbury versus Madison, which I've talked about before, says that any law that is made contrary to the Constitution is null and void on its inception. So all of that with the 1781, 89, whatever time period that was, the Federal Reserve Act, all of these things where they're trying to attack the First and Second and Fourth Amendments, all of those things are null and void. So Virginia is a rogue state. The legislature has gone beyond the rights of the legislature, and it is time and it is duty bound of the people to change that government. Is that saying an overthrow? No, that is our government. Our government says that when our founding documents say when the government is abusive of our rights, it is and of its power, it is time for the people to alter or change it, right? That's in the Declaration, okay? I understand that. But in the Constitution, you have the Bill of Rights and the writ of habeas corpus and those types of things. Well, the writ of habeas corpus, okay, all of that is in there to give teeth to the fact that the people, we the people, not we the legislature, not we the people, in order to form a perfect union and to guarantee the national tranquility, et cetera, not the legislatures, not the president, not the judiciary. They are our servants. And how are they our servants? Well, I understand the government has to have force behind it to some extent, but their powers are only granted them insofar as they protect our rights. And when they don't do that, they have denied the charter. They have denied the contract. They have gone against the contract, and their power is null and void in that instance, not overall. So I'm not talking about overthrowing the government. It is time for the people to stand up and say, Molon Labe. Okay, so you folks in Virginia, if you're listening, if you're here on this, know that that's exactly how I feel about it. And I think it would be very interesting. Now they did it in New Orleans back with Katrina. You remember they did send in the National Guard there, and I think some regular Army units, but certainly National Guard, to seize the weapons. And shame on those National Guard people that did that. Shame on them. They should have turned around and arrested the chief of police of New Orleans, the mayor, and anybody else who was calling for that. Maybe even Bush himself at the time. Well, we've learned a few lessons since then. I'm not saying that the people in the National Guard are not going to do that, but they better not. Okay, they better not, because then they'll show that they are, in fact, tools of the tyrants and not protectors of the people. So I wanted to bring that up this morning, let you know where I'm sitting on these issues. There's some other things going on, but ladies and gentlemen, as I said, this is my time of the year. I don't usually do a lot of these between Thanksgiving and New Year's. I travel during this time, as you all know. I visit friends and family, and I don't want to leave you out of the loop. I don't want to leave myself out of the loop, because I do think it's necessary that we come on and voice our concerns, use our First Amendment, and say how we're looking at things and what we demand our government to be doing for us, and that is to protect us in our rights, not go along with the likes of Schiff and Schumer and Feinstein, etc., right? Because they're really counter to what the American experiment is all about. And but like Judge Learned Hand said, and I've been saying this for a long time, and I've heard the Patriot nurse say this too, and she's absolutely right. The Constitution doesn't give you your rights. And most of you know this, and the courts don't protect your rights. Okay, Judge Learned Hand said it this way, and the quote isn't exactly, but he says, to trust in any piece of paper or legislatures or courts to protect your rights is folly. The rights that you enjoy must be held in your hearts and in your minds, because if it's not there, no court, no judge, no Congress, no president can save it. It must be in your hearts and minds. And they've been trying to purge these rights away from us over the last few decades. Well, it's happened at other times as well, but it's been really serious since about the 70s. A little later than that, but it kind of really took hold then. So, ladies and gentlemen, you must have these rights in your hearts and mind. If the Constitution, the principles of the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, do not reside in the hearts of men and women, no court, no judge, no Congress, no legislature, no president can save it. You have to do that. And sometimes it's dangerous. It happened at Bundy Ranch. It was dangerous. And like I say, they're going after those poor ranchers again. And that should have stopped. Barr should have stopped that. Should have had that dismissed. He should have had Assange dismissed. Should have had Flynn dismissed. And Stone. They're probably going to let the Stone thing play out because it's a political football that they're going to use, I suspect, to some extent. Flynn, his attorney, Sidney Powell, has said that she and Flynn are trying to get the judge to actually kick the FBI and the DOJ in the behind. So they're not actually asking for dismissal yet, I suppose. But the point is, the American people need to stand up and say no. And sometimes you go against powerful forces. I am very uncomfortable with anyone standing up to those who have been sworn as law enforcement officers. But again, when law enforcement officers defy the Constitution and say that all they need to do is follow instructions, that's what they're going to do, is follow their orders, then if we haven't learned the lessons of that problem since World War II and the Nazis, and we haven't, lots of those in power haven't learned that. They still think that power comes from above rather than from the people and from the Constitution. We have a problem. And unfortunately, nothing is going to solve that but standing up and standing your ground. There's nothing else that's going to fix it. Okay, there just isn't. So I'm going on the record with people like Dan Bongino and Colonel Schaefer, etc. Although Dan Bongino has said it quite a little bit differently, but you get my drift. That this is serious what's going on in Virginia, and that it is a blueprint for things to come. And again, I'm pointing right back to the Oval Office. Trump should never have talked about this entire thing. He should have stood fast. Right now, what's happening in Virginia, the DOJ should be, first of all, they should be cutting off any type of federal monies to the state of Virginia. Second of all, they should be threatening arrest by Department of Justice personnel, primarily the FBI. Yeah, right. The FBI, that corrupt institution. U.S. Marshals, somebody. There should be sanctions from President Trump and from Congress against Virginia. But, of course, they all, and I think even Trump, despite his rhetoric about we're going to protect your Second Amendment rights, I don't really see that happening. So we must get out there and we must demand our rights. As I said once before, a judge told me that you must belligerently defend your rights. And I'll leave it up to you as to what belligerent means, but it definitely doesn't mean to remain silent. Okay, that's definitely not what it means. There are forces in our government that are totally out of control, as you well know. Again, I'm going to bring up the Bundy situation because it's going to be coming back here unless Barr does the right thing and dismisses it because of all the exculpatory evidence that the FBI, the DOJ, and the BLM hid from the defense, which is exactly the same blueprint that's happened to General Flynn and to President Trump himself. Okay? Those things should be dismissed right now. But if Barr doesn't do that, if Trump doesn't do that, then it's going to cause another confrontation in Nevada. Am I calling for that? No. What I'm saying is that it's an inevitable result. It's cause and effect. And this is going to be the government doing it. And it's going to result in some really bad things happening. And it's not right. The DOJ people, they should never have immunity when they conduct themselves in the manner that Steve Myrie did he was the U.S. attorney prosecutor in the Bundy case. When somebody does what Myrie does, there should be no immunity. They should be arrested. I understand you've got to try to protect, prosecutors and doing their job. I was a police officer. I understand, when you're going after the real criminals, but that's not what the FBI is doing. And Cernovich even said that the other day, that they don't protect us against the Las Vegas and the Pulse nightclub and all these things. No, they go after ranchers so they can steal their land. Okay, for Hillary Clinton and Harry Reid, and they don't get touched. That's what I'm talking about, and that needs to be stood up against. But it is a dangerous proposition, especially when they bring an entire army against you like they did the Bundys. They didn't need to do that. They could have, if the government really felt like they were in the right, they could have raided the Bundys' bank accounts and taken the taxes or the grazing fees that they thought that they owed. Right? No, that's not what they were about. They were about a show of force to scare the ranchers and the American people. That's what that was about. That was the whole thing. It was a test. It was a beta run. And who did it? Who was it under? Obama, of course, and Holder. Remember Fast and Furious? Arming the cartels in Mexico, which is really arming an insurgency, as I've said, since 2011. That's what you're dealing with. And that's definitely problematic. So God help the good constitutional Virginians that are out there standing up for their rights and telling the government that they don't have a right to do this. That majoritarian coercion coming from the legislature is actually a criminal episode. Is actually what it is. It's sedition against the people of the United States and the Constitution. So that's where we are. Let's see if there's anything else. I don't think so. I was possibly thinking of discussing some other things, but I think I'm interested in going to chat and not making this very long this morning. As you can tell, I'm a little hoarse. The fog is getting to me up here, and that's not fun, obviously. Okay, let's see if we have anything here. I'm not going to hit everybody, of course, but I do want to do a little bit of this. My chat always jumps way down the list this late, and I always miss all those things that were at the front. And thank you, everybody, for being here. Okay, right. Yours. Yeah, Bone Lep Trot. Yeah, I understand what's going on in Washington State. I'm in your Washington State right now, and I'm very aware of what's happening here. You have, I think it's the sheriff of Spokane, who is standing up. I don't know if anybody else is, but it's the same type of thing. They had some things here where they were going to try to keep you from giving your weapons to your kids and stuff like that. And all. I'm not. It's just out of control. It's just out of control. Conservative-leaning brew, yeah. POTUS did say he was going to drain the swamp, and in some ways he's doing that. He just got another guy, conservative, on the Ninth Circuit, which is a good thing to do. And I realize that these things take time, but by the same token, when there are clear and present dangers, you have to act with some specificity and with aggression, and otherwise. It's like I said, McRaven and Admiral McRaven and Madison, all these guys wouldn't be jumping to the coup side if they didn't think that there was a better than 50-50 chance that they're going to succeed. I don't think Trump realizes that. If he thinks he's good, when he goes out to these rallies, he's preaching to the choir. That's not reaching the people he thinks it is. I mean, if he thinks that by doing these rallies he's impressing the rest of the country that's against him, he's wrong. They're not even listening to those things. No, he's got to take action against the perpetrators. That's how this has to be done. We're past the point of trying to negotiate, of trying to explain things to a side that doesn't want to hear it. They're leftist Marxists. You can't reason with people that don't use logic and reason. You just can't. It's all about feelings. It's all about passion with no basis, with no foundation, and you just can't deal with that. Cynthia Williams, that's something I could talk about. You're saying, what's with the anti-Semitism? Our Lord was a Jew. Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but there are more Semites than Jews, okay? Not all Jews are Semites, and not all Semites are Jews. Historically, you'd have to understand what I'm talking about. As a matter of fact, when I was doing my studies in Hebrew and all of that many years ago, I became convinced that if the original Gospels were ever found, and there are people that say that they have found the original manuscripts of the Gospels, and I haven't gotten into that in any great detail, so I don't know if it's true, but it would make sense to me, knowing what the Nazarenes, the Nazarim as they were called, which is really what they were. They were Nazarites. Not from the city of Nazareth, but the religious viewpoint of the Nazarenes. That's another story. But at any rate, it was, when those ancient peoples wrote sacred things, they wrote it in their original language, in their sacred Hebrew. They wouldn't write it in Aramaic. They wouldn't write it in Greek. They might have a copy, translated into Greek, but they would always write their sacred texts in Hebrew. So I've often wondered why we couldn't find the Hebrew manuscripts of these Gospels. It would make sense to me that they would be translated into Greek at some point, and that might mess up the timetable of when they were written. In other words, if there was a Hebrew manuscript written in, say, 35 A.D., or the Common Era, CE, as the scholars like to say, if there was one written in 35 in Hebrew, but it wasn't put into Greek until 60 A.D., then for lots of reasons, the early church and those who wanted to influence thought, faith, and history would say, well, the gospel wasn't written until 60 A.D. And indeed, that is what's said. Historically, they say that the first gospel, the Gospel of Mark, was not put pen to paper, pen to scroll, until 60 A.D. Well, now, and they say that they have these now original Hebrew manuscripts, that they found them in Spain and some other places, and some of you might know what I'm talking about. The archives in Israel and also in the Vatican apparently might have some of these. The Vatican won't release them, but some other places have similar copies. Well, that's really good. And so, if that's the case, that really bolsters a lot of things. I've talked about the Shroud of Turin, and if in fact, these original Gospels in Hebrew can become extant, wow! I hope you understand how important that will be for preparing the world for the truth. Okay, that would be absolutely fantastic. I just want to mention that in passing. So, in other words, again, Cynthia Williams, and I hate to tell you also, but it's most likely that Jesus was a Jew by nationality. He probably was not, even though we have the genealogy that says that he was, from Judah. There's some questions in there, because if you remember, there's another scripture that says, "And the scepter shall not pass from Judah until Shiloh comes." That's really important. And I've talked a little bit about Shiloh and about Ephraim and about all of that. So, at any rate, Jew by nationality, he may not have been, in fact. Semite, yes, but so are the Arabs. Okay, so the Ishmaelites are Shemites too. Okay, a lot of people don't understand it. All right. No, Melissa Raza, yeah, I know what you're saying. She's talking again about the situation with Trump's executive order. It is unconstitutional. There are no super rights in the true Constitution. Well, that's just what I was saying, right? I mean, an executive order really, just as we've seen with all the other executive orders that Trump has done, they really have no teeth. They really don't. He's basically directing, some of his agencies to act in a certain way. I'm not saying that's right, okay? I'm not saying that's right. As I've already explained, and maybe you wrote this before I explained this, I find it reprehensible that there are hate crime laws, period. A human life is a human life. And if you have a robber that comes and robs you and kills you to take your money, it doesn't matter whether he hated you because of your color. How does that change the whole thing? It really doesn't. It's another manipulation of the law to put us, in fact, at a disadvantage. So I agree with you that there should be no super rights. All are equal under the law. I absolutely agree with that. So I find it disgusting, stupid, and reprehensible that he did that. But the Jews are going to say, "Oh no, we need this extra protection because we're always targets. We're always targets." Well, okay, I'm going to say it again. All right, not all Jews are Semites, and not all Semites are Jews. All right. Even Cernovich probably wouldn't like me saying that, but I'm certain he knows what I'm talking about. Okay, let's see. Virginia State Police might as well be Antifa. Well, if they conduct themselves like this, if they conduct themselves the way that the BLM and the FBI and the DOJ did in Nevada against the Bundys and against those very wonderful, salt of the earth, red-blooded American ranchers, yeah, they might as well be Antifa. Okay, again, I'm going to call again. Barr needs to dismiss that whole thing that the DOJ is trying to prepare against the Bundys. They've already scheduled oral arguments in front of the Ninth Circuit. I think it's in March, to try to set aside the judge's dismissal with prejudice in that case because of the misconduct, of the prosecutorial misconduct, and because other things were hidden about that whole situation. The fact that the turtles weren't the issue. And if the taxes were the issue, you didn't need to bring an army in to do it. All you had to do was to take their bank accounts. Of course, with probable cause, with due process and all that. But that whole thing was wrong, and Barr and Trump are wrong not to stop that. And as in Virginia, are the people going to have to stand up? There's no way that I want to put a law enforcement officer's life at risk. But I got to admit, it's like Matt Bracken said, you come to take away my weapons, and God help you. Why do we keep pushing this? They have the tools to use due process. That's what we gave the government the tools to do. They don't have to come in with an army and threaten ranchers. And it's not just them. It's, again, this thing in Virginia is the same situation. And of course, you know that if our law enforcement agencies have a change in heart and start to enforce the Constitution the way it's supposed to be and not do these tyrannical actions, what's the next step? Of course, the UN. That's been set up a long time ago. The initiatives, what do they call those? The Safe City Initiatives, or whatever the heck that is, from the UN that Obama was trying to bring in. Yeah, that's the next step. And so they're always pushing to place you in chains. They're always doing that. Okay. Joe Stevens, I like that. We shouldn't talk smack about Freemasons. Many good folk, they are as infiltrated as the rest of us. And I've talked about that before, and I agree with you 100%. Okay? Yeah, democracy is mob rule by definition, Denise J. That's exactly right, and that's why it's that and that's the same thing as majoritarian coercion, which the courts have nullified time and time again. And even if they don't nullify it, it's still explained very well in the Constitution. That's why we have a republic with a set of laws. We're supposed to be. You hear the Democrats talking about this all the time. We're a nation of laws. We have the rule of law. They think it's what they say, because they want to have the Constitution to be a fluid document that they can interpret as they need to, rather than rock solid rights on your part. I don't mind if they want to change the administrations in the government, how things are organized, that's fine. But those Bill of Rights are inviolate. They cannot, as the Second Amendment says, infringe. They cannot change those. And if they try, they're tyrants. Right? Okay. John Douglas, Trump gone by New Year's. Well, I don't trust the Senate. I don't. And as I've said, all of this isn't even necessary to come to fruition in the House and the Senate. This is all cover so that those that are going to pull off some really nasty things will have cover to do it. That's how I'm looking at this. Okay? That's how I'm looking at this. Yeah, Angler Strong, Robert S. Bliskin. Didn't take long to swat Roger Stone and put him in jail for life for no crimes whatsoever. I agree, process crimes. So why haven't they moved against the people like Page, Strzok, McCabe, Brennan, Clapper, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, ad infinitum? I got a problem with Barr. I got a problem with him, and I do. And I have a problem with Trump for that same reason. Stone's case should be dismissed right now. Flynn's case should be dismissed. The Bundy's case should, and I'm talking about by Barr, dismissed. Stop this nonsense at the Ninth Circuit. And, of course, Assange as well. Why don't they? Well, that's why I'm so suspicious of Trump. Oh, he can't do it because, people won't. All he has to do is write. He doesn't even have to have the DOJ do it. I don't know exactly what the legal things are here, but all he has to do is say, do the pardoning papers, Seculo. Right? That's all it takes. So why isn't he? Why doesn't he do justice? If he was really God's man, he would open the prisons to get these people out. That's what a true man of God would do. So I have a problem with him. And certainly I do with Barr. Remember, I know about Barr. I know about Ruby Ridge. I know about his position on the Fourth and Second Amendments. I know all that. I know he was a fixer for the Bushes. If he allows an army to again attack the Bundys, and the Bundys will stand up. That's what I'm saying. This is a cause and effect thing. The Bundys aren't going to go peacefully. They're not. They're not that kind of people. Just like the Virginians aren't. Don't do this, Barr. Don't do this, Trump. The weapons of war are not to be turned against the people of this country over this nonsense. Ron Vroom and I agree too. Yeah, I said what the process was to make an amendment to the Constitution. I'm not saying that that's justified. I'm saying that that's the government's legal remedy. If they don't like us having weapons, they need to do a constitutional amendment. That's all I'm saying. Okay? And no, even that's not right. But if they want to do it, that's their only process by which they can do it. They can't keep infringing the way they do. That was all my point is. But I agree with you that you can't amend rights away either. No, that's true. Okay. Yeah, Rick Thorne, I know. I keep expecting this channel to be taken down every day. It still hasn't been. I'm pretty sure I'm shadow banned and my counts are different, but I don't, are probably altered. But I don't even care about all that. Like I've told you, I'm out here to unload some karma. I'm not out here to make money or friends or any of that. Yeah, dog patch. I agree with you. God-given right to self-defense stands above the Second Amendment. Right. Well, the Second Amendment doesn't give you the right. You understand that, right? The amendments, the Bill of Rights, are government's contract with us to protect your God-given rights. Yeah, they don't give you the rights. That's right. I agree. Gethsemane, declassify everything now. What the hell is Trump waiting for? Yeah, D. Slatton says it right. Self-defense is a God-given right. The Bill of Rights is just a guarantee. It's the charter with the government saying, yes, we recognize that these are God-given rights and we will protect them. But when they don't protect them and when they try to infringe on them, then they are basically breaking the charter, the contract that we have with them. Right. It doesn't change your right. No, I'm not saying that. And I think you understand that. Christmas is a pagan holiday. I've already explained all that. All right. I still don't have a problem with the season. I don't, and if you're a Christian, you'll understand what Paul said, right? Paul said, I don't care about this or that or whatever because Christ is preached. End of story. So I know that the time frame is wrong. I know that the Christmas time is about Constantine and all that. I know that. I still like it. I'm still going to say Merry Christmas. Do you know what Christmas means, by the way? If you break it down and it's what its word means, its etymology. Does anybody here know that? I'm going to run to the bottom of this, and then I'll try to remember to come back. I just want to ask a question. Can anybody tell me? Yeah, I believe Dan Bongino is a patriot. I do. Can anybody here tell me what Christmas actually means? What does it mean? The word Christmas. Does anybody know? Let's see if anybody knows. No response yet? Well, let me tell you what the opposite of Christmas is. The birth of Christ. Do you know that? Do you know that the meaning of Christmas is the opposite of the birth of Christ? Do you know that? Does anybody here know what it is? I'm still looking to see if anybody knows. Okay. What it means is the death of Christ. Christmas. Yeah. If you break it down etymology, I can't even say that word right now this morning. It means the death of Christ is what it means. It's not the birth of Christ. So it's all playing games, right? Okay. Epistemology. Thank you, Billy Dump. All right. Etymology, yes. Etymology. Okay, let me go back here and see. Yeah, they are kicking the can down the road, Rick Thorne. I agree. That's exactly what's happening. Yeah, Jack Kennedy, I'm worried about that. He says, what about the theory that the Republicans won't be there for the vote and Trump will get ousted in a recess vote the way that, yeah, well, that's the problem. The Constitution doesn't say that it has to be all members of Congress that vote on this. It says those who are present. It's 2/3, right? 2/3 of those who are present. Yeah, this is a problem. Even my Republican insider is very uncomfortable with this. And Lindsey Graham, he says one thing in public. What's he saying behind the scenes? No, this is not good. And if Trump doesn't take action prior to that, well, I have a feeling, like I said, this is balkanized anyway. This whole thing is balkanized to the point that it's irreparable, and I know that. We're just talking about kicking the can down the road. That's what we're doing. We're basically just trying to keep this thing from blowing up before we can try to take action. But with Barr saying that there are going to be actions by Durham until late spring or summer, that already tells you, right? As far as I'm concerned. Now, again, I know that if they're going on a large conspiracy where they want to take a lot of people down, they don't want to piecemeal prosecutions. I can understand the thought behind that, but the problem is you can still arrest somebody like this Kleinsmith now. You could arrest Hillary Clinton now on some of the things that she's done that are illegal. That doesn't mean you can't add charges later. It's ridiculous. It's just like, you've seen it in the movies, They find some stupid little crime they can arrest somebody on so they can hold them for 48 hours until they can get the rest of the evidence. Where the hell is Barr? Is he putting the brakes on Durham? I mean, he talked about his dissatisfaction with some of the predicates. The fact that I never really got to that in the Horowitz report, that it wasn't politically biased. He said some things about that, but he's doing no better. These people are roaming around the streets. People like Roger Stone aren't. The rest of us are sitting here wondering how far the government's going to go. Barr, again, I'm going to tell you, Barr, he doesn't like the Fourth Amendment. He doesn't like the Second Amendment. Are these all machinations so that they can continue to place us in a position where we can't stand our ground? Yeah, it's problematic. Okay, Daniel Grant. There are a lot of people up here angered by this Agenda 21 BS. I think it's like Monograph said, though. We will be on our way off this bus by the time the totalitarianism is completed. Well, yeah, it's probably a few years down the road, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't try to stop it now, and I know you know that. Nancy M. Trump's had over 3 years to do something. Instead, we are losing our freedoms faster than ever. Very true. Very, very true. I've called him a slow-mo HRC. I've said that. If HRC had gotten in, there would have been a revolt right up front. Not a rebellion. Big difference. A revolt. Okay? You never want to be a rebel. You don't want to be involved in rebellion. Revolt, that's a whole nother thing. But yeah, again, the red flag laws. Let's take the guns first and then the due process. He has no moral basis. He doesn't understand the Constitution. He needs to take a day off work and sit down and read it all on his own, and then he needs to go talk to some constitutional scholars. I'd even go along with him, talking to somebody like rats. What's his name? He testified in front of the. It's right on the tip of my tongue. He's from George Washington University. He's a Democrat, but he's a constitutional scholar. I don't know why I've forgotten his name. That happens, I need more coffee. It's still early for me here. Okay. Zavoya, you've been here quite a bit. Yeah, I am suspicious of Trump for his inaction. At this point, oh my God, it's coming to the wire and we need offensive moves. I agree. And I've been calling for that for a long time. Okay. Yeah, I think Trump is, as Straight Arrow 62 says, yeah, I think he can beat any Democrat, but that's the point. They might not let him get to that point. That's what the Democrats are trying to do. They're trying to take him out so he can't even be there to run, or if he does manage to run, to impeach him again. This is out of control. I mean, that we're seeing some horrible things happen here. Ed and Elaine Brown, Michael Lerman. I'm not sure I know about that. Maybe I should, but it's not ringing a bell on me right now. No censorship says W justified bloodshed and the end to many politicians and many in the FBI, CIA, etc. The people have lost the power to government. Not sure what you're saying there. Just so you know, I'm not. I know these chats don't really let you explain much. Yeah, Chicken Patty 13. Yeah, well, there is a civil war in D.C. already, and there are some indications that there have been some shots fired. Okay, I don't know how far it'll go, but yeah, Jane Swinford. Yeah, Owen Shore was very brave to do what he did. There are. I'm not saying what he did was wrong. Don't misunderstand me, but there are protocols. There are orders, and when I say order, I mean parliamentarian order type things about disrupting the proceedings. So I understand what you're saying, and I'm not saying that Owen wasn't brave and courageous to do what he did, but I probably wouldn't have done it that way. Okay, it's just like you can. Well, anyway, I'll just leave it at that. I'm not berating Owen at all. What he did was brave, it was courageous, and all that. Okay, I don't have a problem. It's just that there are parliamentarian procedures, and I know sometimes you have to break out of the box. Uh, I understand that, and he certainly got the whole nation to start talking about it. So he made a sacrifice, very similar to the Bundy standing up for their rights. I understand. Yeah. Yeah, Nancy M. I don't disagree with you. With Soros saying we are anti-Semite, we don't need Trump doing EOs on anti-Semitism. I know, I know. If you don't know where I stand on, you can't get my book on YouTube anymore. It's called The Crimson Thread: The Struggle to Become Jesus During the Revolt Against Rome. It's out of print now. I didn't renew it. Amazon and all that were going through so many crazy things. They wanted access to this and access to that, and I just had enough. But if you can ever find that book and read it, you'll see how I feel about all that. I think you'll understand. And historically, I'm right on. Okay, I'm right on. So I know what you're talking about. And I've said it before. Those who say they are Jews aren't always Semites, and those who say they are Semites aren't always Jews. As a matter of fact, those who say they are Semites are almost never Jews. Okay, I mean the real Semites. We've been going for an hour and 10 minutes. Trevor Innes, thank you. He says, I just called my senator's office showing concern for the Second Amendment in Virginia. People that are seeing this should be calling their Congress people right now. Exactly. And President Trump should be sending the U.S. Marshals into the Virginia legislature threatening them with arrest. Yeah. See, that's what I'm talking about. He doesn't understand, or he's too timid. I said it the other day in a broadcast, didn't I say that? Yeah. Nancy M. Trump acts impotent until he wants to do a business deal, starting to look like play acting. I agree. I agree. I said it the other day. He wants to declare the drug cartels terrorist organizations. They fit the bill. They are an insurgency. They are they are taking over government positions and all that, just like an insurgency does. And then on Obrador's request, the president of Mexico, he backs off. And somebody said, well, he's trying to negotiate. Well, you're just saying it right there. Yeah, he's trying to do business deals. That's how he operates. Well, that's what we got, right? 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 1 step forward, 2 steps back. You're in the same position. I've been calling for him to go after those cartels for a long time. And yes, I know what that's going to be like. I know what that's going to turn into. But you know what? It would make a lot more sense than sending people to Afghanistan. I mean, what the hell is he doing sending 1,400 more troops to Afghanistan? The Afghanistan papers are out now, right? All of the military, including General Milley, have lied about, and Petraeus and McChrystal and all those people, about what was going on in the Middle East and saying that we were making progress when we weren't. They lie because they want perpetual war. And Trump is allowing 1,400 more troops to go to Afghanistan? Yak, yak, yak. This is what I hear from Trump. Nothing burgers. A lot of bravado and no action. That's why I'm upset with him. I don't buy that he's tied up in there and surrounded. I'm not saying he isn't, but I'm saying he sure as hell isn't a president if he can't figure out how to do the right thing. I don't want to bash Trump today, but you all should know how I feel about it. Yeah, I know, and the MCA is being told to be all these great things when it's just nothing more than an altered NAFTA. I know. Several good people on Twitter talk about it. I think Cheryl Atkinson has talked about it. Gigi Sims has talked about it. Headlines with a Voice. Yeah, all those things. Yeah, Nancy M., we are bashing Trump today, aren't we? I've already said it. He sits around and lets the left attack, and then he whines about it. Yeah, and the bad thing is he's always saying, look what they're doing to me. Look what they're doing to me. Well, look what they did to Stone, to Flynn. Flynn with your help, I might add, President Trump, letting Pence lie to you about it. Assange. Yeah. All of his supporters. He's very egocentric when it comes to all this stuff that's happening. Jonathan Turley, that's who I was saying, the constitutional scholar from George Washington University, Jonathan Turley. Good man, good man. Yeah, so Trump whines, and he's not protecting anybody. He just whines. He does. And I get tired of seeing all that crap on Twitter from him. I'm not saying I don't like him being on Twitter. I'm tired of him whining and crying and never doing anything. It's like I said, there should be arrests this week, right now. Right after the Horowitz thing, a group of marshals should have gone in and arrested, a good handful of people at a minimum. Who would they be? Well, it's not for me to say, but you can guess who I would name, right? Right. Rick M., I don't care if Trump is in a bind and he doesn't have anyone he can trust. That's his fault. My Republican insider and I go back and forth on this all the time. He should have learned his lesson in the first 6 months of being in office, and he didn't. Or he just ignores it. He's got ways around this, and he refuses to do it. It's like I said the other day, he needs to fire McClellan and hire Grant. If you don't know what that means historically, I'm not going to explain it again. No, it isn't, Roy. What, Dwayne Schmidt? I don't know what you're talking about. If you don't refer to at least a one word line about what you're saying, I don't know what you're talking about, okay? No, it isn't, Roy. No, it isn't what? Daytime, nighttime? You know, I don't know what you're talking about. Got to be a little more clear in these things than that. I know one-liners are best to do on chat, but you expect me, Dwayne, to respond to that? No, it isn't, Roy. What? I'll speed down to the bottom of the list and see if you're going to explain it to me. Why I'm giving you a pass on that, I don't know. Virtuous Woman says, Roy Potter, it's not on your time. Are you? Do you understand what you just said? Do you have any idea of what you just said? I'm not the only one that's saying that Trump is not doing what he said he would do. I'm not the only one saying that he's allowing the evil side to gain more ground. I'm not the only one saying that he's lost the initiative. The people like you that say those types of things, it's because you don't understand your awful situation. There is no plan, ma'am. That's abundantly clear. The plan should be that the hammer comes down on these people immediately. Not use it as a political football next spring and summer. He may not even make it through this impeachment thing. If the Senate turns on him, and we just talked about it, yes, I'm a little miffed at you. If the Senate turns on him, this is over with. Do you understand? Because he didn't act. It's not on my time. Trump doesn't always have a plan. Okay, I'm not going to get... Okay, if you start saying trust the plan, I'm going to do what Lionel does. I'm going to throw you off. Okay? Because it's obvious there isn't one, not the one that there should be. He's the one that said, arrest Hillary. Right? I'm going to support your Second Amendment. We're going to drain the swamp. He's the one that said he was going to do it. Oh, there's a timeline. Look, it's over with. If the Senate turns on him before Christmas or before the first of the year, well, before Christmas because they'll break, it's over with, ladies and gentlemen. And this whole thing about it's not up to your time, Roy, well, I'll tell you what, I can read the tea leaves. I know when a guy's getting ready to throw a punch. And it's not Trump throwing punches. Okay. I think we're done. I've gone for an hour and 20 minutes almost, and I don't want to drag you people through all this all morning. I'm going to address Straight Barrel 62, then I'm going to go. He says the Senate won't turn on him. Not going to happen. Do you understand the power that the IC, Soros, the pedophilia networks, the Ukrainian networks, the amount of money that these people in Congress have had laundered back to them through foreign aid programs? Lindsey Graham never called witnesses. Remember back in the spring, he said he was going to get to the bottom of all this and call in witnesses. Did it happen? What's your name? Straight Arrow 62? He didn't do it. I'm not comfortable with this at all. I'm not saying they won't support him, but I don't see a whole lot of evidence that there's really anything in it for them if they do. We'll find out, won't we? I hope you're right. I hope the Senate doesn't turn on him. I don't think we have strong people in the Senate like we do in the House, like Jordan, like Meadows, like Nunes. I don't see those strong people in the Senate. I just don't. I hope you're right. I hope they don't turn on him. Complicity rules the world. Yeah, isn't that the truth? Okay. I think we're done for this morning. Actually, I went longer than I really thought I would. All right, so to sum it all up, what am I concerned about? Just to sum up, again, I think the Horowitz report, the IG report, did reveal the corruption and even crimes in the intelligence, or not, in the FBI and the DOJ. That they didn't follow procedures. Wasn't just they didn't follow procedures, they performed criminal actions. And he did not say that, but they did. There was one criminal referral, probably this Klein Smith dude, for altering the email that they used to then go forward with the FISA. They're probably going to try to use Klein Smith as the fall guy. If that's what they do, that's wrong. Not saying he shouldn't go down, but he can't be the only person that goes down either. That's baloney. That's BS. In the long run, I don't think the Horowitz report was strong enough. I do believe that Barr's problem with that whole thing is absolutely right on. But then Barr's not doing anything either. He's saying that they're going to hold off on anything from Durham until spring or summer. I find a problem with that. There we are again. More kick the can down the road. What are they up to? So that's my feelings on the Horowitz report. By and large, it is damning of the FBI and the DOJ. Not so much the DOJ, that's still not quite there, but it should be. The DOJ basically enabled the FBI to do what it did. Okay, so that's my take on Horowitz. And then on the Second Amendment situation, the government's, as exemplified by the Virginia legislature and governor, are trying to infringe and, in fact, negate the Second Amendment. And nobody from President Trump or anybody else there is protecting the Bill of Rights. No one. And good on the counties for declaring themselves sanctuary counties, but I have no doubt that the legislature will go to tyranny and to authoritarian mass murder if it comes down to the point where this goes to a real fight. That's where it'll be. Government wants the tools of power. It wants to have itself only armed, and that's a sign of tyranny. Again, what does it say? What's the first sentence in the Constitution? We, the people, not we, the legislature, not we, the president, not we, the Congress, not we, the state legislature of Virginia, not we, the governor, we, the people. And those Bill of Rights are our barometer to let us know if our government is doing its job to protect us or if it's trying to enslave us. And I think we all know, by their actions you shall know them, by their fruits you shall know them, that they are not about protecting our rights. They are about stealing from us. And like with the Bundys, take from the Bundys and give to Harry Reid and to Hillary Clinton, all under the guise of the color of law. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for coming. I appreciate you being here. I mean, that was, I didn't make any announcements about this, And I probably won't. Again, this is the time of year where I'm kind of taking some time off. Although I've done quite a few impromptus, extemporaneous uploads, spontaneous uploads, whatever. So, yeah, we've done that. I thought it was time to do a little formal presentation today. No shirt and tie. I actually did bring a jacket and a white shirt and a tie, but I wanted to make sure that I, had the theme spread out here and able to see it and talk about it. So I hope that was appropriate, and I appreciate you putting up with me. I'm sorry if I become impatient with a few people, but we can't give Trump a pass anymore. We can't, and there is no timetable. He has squandered his time. He has squandered it. Listen to Lionel. Lionel, I mean, he's a Q guy. Lionel's a Q guy. If you don't, seriously, Lionel Nation is a Q guy. He's pushed Q. He wasn't in it as early as I was, and then I saw what it was and got out, and he's kind of continued with it because it really ups his numbers. He probably likes it too, but he's that kind of guy. But even Lionel says, "When are you going to act, Trump? When are you going to act, Barr? You must do something. Hillary should be arrested for jaywalking if that's all you've got on her." So I'm not the only one that sees this. And I know that there's a problem in the Department of Defense. It's obvious. We've seen it. And this thing with the Afghan papers and Milley points it out, as well as the situation with McCraven, Mattis, Clapper, Hayden, all those guys jumping onto the coup wagon, supporting it. We have a problem. And Trump's not going to fix it by looking the other way and trying to placate these people. It's way too far down the road for that. There's no more time for inaction. It's going to be the demise of this so-called republic, which it isn't anymore, but we keep trying to restore it because we have people like Trump who says he's going to, and then he does nothing. Hey, you just brought it up, the EO, on declaring this stuff about hate crimes against Jews. There we are. Equal protection under the law? Really? That's what he does? He doesn't? Okay. You get my drift. There's no more time for inaction. A plan with no action, ladies and gentlemen, is no plan. All right. Thanks for coming. Till next time. We'll keep an eye on things. And I appreciate y'all coming out this morning, hearing me ramble on for nearly an hour and a half. As you can tell, my friends are all asleep still. We were up late last night. Okay. All right. Let's see if I got anything here I need to do. No, I think that's it. We'll go on out, and we'll see you next time out here.